For the third straight season, your Duke Blue Devils are 3-0. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Duke Football Talk Section 17 podcast. I'm your host, Brian Kennedy, alongside my co-host, Josh Cox, Jamie Holt, Scott Medlin, and as I stated, the Duke Blue Devils for the third straight season are 3-0. That is only the second time in program history that has happened. And of course, before we give our thoughts on all things Duke, we got to hear from the man himself. Here is Manny Diaz postgame after the 26-21 victory over UCONN.
Really proud of our football team to be 3-0 here tonight. It's the only thing you can accomplish when you play 3 games. You can only win 3. You only win 1 tonight. Tonight, it's back-to-back fourth-quarter comebacks. But I thought tonight was different than last Friday in Evanston. Tonight, they took proper momentum of the game. We had a chance to really run away from them in the first half, and a freak play happens. And you got to give those guys credit. They did a really nice job, hit us on some trick plays, and I thought they really seized control of the game. And that's where you really got to dig down and believe, in a way that I don't feel like Northwestern ever did that a week ago. So our guys, they took a proper punch tonight. And the way that they responded, their confidence in playing in the fourth quarter, which our style of offense and the tempo and the snaps we put together, they're a difficult team to run the ball against with the pressure and the movement and all the stunting. And our offensive line and our backs got better and better as the game went on. And to be able to run out the clock in a 4-minute situation like we did, that's every offensive lineman's dream. It's every running back's dream. Very unselfish from Star Thomas to not go in the end zone, because that's the only avenue they had to winning was for us to score a touchdown in that scenario. So I thought the offensive staff did a great job of preparing him for that. And then a lot of outstanding performances. I mean, Queso Brown with the 11 catches, what he does in special teams as our punt returner. What a guy. And we needed every one of them. I thought it was a big-time throw by Malik there on that third down to back shoulder it, but it was a great catch. So really, really proud of creating another weapon, opposite, Jordan, of course, Eli with another touchdown today. Defensively, stood tall, right, after a bad third quarter, or bad start to the third quarter, had to make some stops with very little margin for error. The guys did it. I thought our safeties, Terry Moore with a crazy interception right there, and Jalen Stinson batting on his birthday, batting down the pass on the trick play, sort of the muddle huddle type deal, which is that's something, you're going to rep that once a week. And for that to show up in that type of critical situation, to make that play, which ultimately leads to the missed field goal, was a telling moment in the game. So, again, a lot that we have to improve on, but it's always more fun to improve when you're winning and 3-0 and eventually going into league play where you're going to be in tough games, you're going to be in close games, and what they have learned through these last couple of weeks is going to really bode well as we get further down into our season.
And again, our thanks to Manny Diaz for his thoughts post-game after another nail-biter, fellas. Let's call it like it is, 26-21. And great game overall, got to say. We gave some tickets away. Thanks again to Matt Bliven, one of our sponsors. We got to thank the sponsors. We got to pay the bills. We got to keep the lights on, right? Matt gave away the UNC tickets. So, folks, going to be a couple of weeks before we do another ticket giveaway. Yep, up there, right there. Yep, perfect. As always, Matt is a realtor in the Durham area. If you're looking to buy, sell, build, have any questions pertaining to the real estate market, go ahead and give Matt a call or email him. Call him at 919-323-0527 or email him at mlb@nestrealty.com. The next ticket giveaway will be for the Florida State weekend, October 18th. So it's going to be a little while, folks. But that'll give you plenty of time to make your plans to come to the Florida State game or to get ready for the Florida State game, because I don't think we've determined yet how we're going to do the ticket giveaway for that Friday night showdown. But our thanks again to Matt for sponsoring us this year. He is one of our Hellraiser sponsors. Josh, who else do we have to thank?
Yeah, we want to thank Hometown Air, Jamie and his team, Residential HVAC, a company servicing the Triangle, and they wanted us to tell you a little bit more about their service contract. So the service contract will give you comfort in knowing that your HVAC system is always performing its best no matter what season. Regular maintenance on these units not only extends the life of your system, but it ensures that your systems run efficiently all year around. So call today and discover the peace of mind that comes with a worry-free HVAC system. And just as a reminder, if you do sign with a 1-year agreement with them on that service agreement, and you mentioned the Section 17 podcast, you will save $17 off your first year. And they do service Durham, Hillsborough, Roxborough, Mebane, Pittsburgh, Raleigh, and anywhere in between there. So you can find them at hometownairnc.com, hometownairnc.com, or you can call them at 919-568-3212. So there's nothing like, Brian can attest to this, there's nothing like knowing your HVAC system is where it needs to be. Brian's currently going through some stuff with his. And so shout out to our sponsors there, Hometown Air. And then lastly, remember, get your home from Matt Bliven. Make sure your home has the heating and air it needs from Hometown Air. And then if you need something to wear in your home, if you're one of those people who wear clothes in your home, Home Field Apparel. We're going with the white logo tonight. Home Field Apparel is your spot. The home for vintage branding. Okay, Home Field Apparel. They have some really cool stuff. If you're into this, they just released some corduroy hats. I don't know. I think Jamie was anti the corduroy hats, but hey, there's a lot of people that like those. Kind of got like a hipster kind of vibe to them, but they just released them. But there's a lot going on at homefieldapparel.com. If you use code Section 17 at checkout, you will get 15% off your first order at homefieldapparel.com. We really appreciate our friends there. And like I said, it doesn't only look good, but it's soft. Their clothes, it's high quality. It wears nice. Brian next week is going to be doing a giveaway with a piece of merchandise from homefieldapparel.com. So we appreciate all of our sponsors, the Hellraiser sponsors. Your home with Matt Bliven, keeping your home cool in the summer and warm in the winter with Hometown Air, and then outfitting your clothes with homefieldapparel.com. I believe those are our 3 Hellraiser sponsors.
We got to get Scott a black hat. I just realized the 3 of us are in the black hat mafia tonight, and Scott's just being Scott. No hat, no nothing.
I'm not a hat person. I hate to be that guy, but I'm not a hat person.
Sacrifices have to be made for the betterment of the podcast.
I was going to say, out of all the years I've known Scott, I don't think I've ever seen him wear a hat. So.
I have a Duke hat that I used to wear to the games, but I don't wear it much anymore because it didn't do well once it got washed.
What will happen first? Duke makes the playoffs, or Scott wears a hat?
That's actually a good question. I would think that I would wear a hat first. No offense to Duke, but just saying.
You never know. But again, Duke 3-0, as I stated a couple of times while we got this episode going, it is only the second time in program history that the Blue Devils have started a third straight season 3-0. The only other time that happened, 1933, 1934, 35, and 36. So it's been quite a while since the Blue Devils have done this. Manny Diaz becomes the 7th Duke head coach to win his first 3 games as Duke head coach.
It's been a while, Brian, since we made this joke. The last time it happened, Peter Dodge was in middle school. Or we had to make a Peter Dodge joke.
Yes.
That's exactly what I was thinking, too.
Because we love Peter Dodge.
And Jack Wallabaugh was a freshman, I believe, on the 36 team.
Red shirt. Freshman.
Yes, red shirt. Yes, yeah. Exactly. And something else I found interesting. First time since 2014, Duke has had consecutive wins when trailing at the start of the fourth quarter. Not exactly the prettiest game, but hey, as we state, a win is a win. So we are looking forward to this weekend in Murfreesboro against Middle Tennessee. We didn't have another interview. We just made the decision. We are saving our interviews for ACC only games this year. So you get more of us tonight yet again. And from what I'm hearing from Jamie confirmed this. We've got another hefty mailbag. So we're just going to jump right into it. Jamie, go ahead. Get us going with our first question.
All right. We're going off of Facebook first, leading off. Travis T. Murphy. First, he says, happy birthday to me. And so thank you, Travis. I appreciate that. And also he says, this is also kind of a shot at me. Do y'all think Duke could beat the Carolina Panthers 26-3? Possibly.
I don't know, man. Not with Andy Dalton. Not with Andy Dalton as a signal caller.
The Red Rocket.
That's
the Red Rocket. I'll tell you what I call him. I can't say it on the pod. We have to put the explicit up there.
All right, but he had a question here, and this is I think for Brian here, our resident bolitologist. After watching the offense for 3 games now, and he says we should go to 4-0. What do y'all think the odds of Duke making a bowl game are?
Okay, let's talk logically. You've got to get 6 wins to become bowl eligible. Duke should win this weekend. That would put them at 4-0. We've seen a lot of what ifs with other teams. You've got UNC going through quarterback controversy right now. They let Central stay with them through 3 quarters, I believe, this past Saturday. You've got a Georgia Tech team who's pretty stout right now. Let's just call it like it is. Shout out to Josh. He called that preseason. That could be a tough game. You have the bye week, and then a certain team who is 0-3 shows up October 18th. Wouldn't that be poetic justice if the Blue Devils got their first ever victory against Florida State to potentially become bowl eligible?
Let's say even better, make it the 6th win. Yeah.
But let's just say things don't go the way that Duke wants, and they only win one of the next 3 games. You've got SMU, who is very streaky. I watched them against Nevada. They did not look good. Shout out Dave Shoemate. We were talking during spring practice. He didn't believe the SMU hype. So who else do we have? State, who is going through injuries right now. Grayson McCall's out. You've got the U, who actually looks good. Wake Forest, who jury's still out on that one. Virginia Tech, they stumbled out of the gates, but they seem to have found their rhythm. And I think that's it, isn't it? That's
it.
That's
all
it.
of them.
I will have to say, Brian, you gave me credit for calling the Georgia Tech one. I also have to take on the opposite end of that.
Yeah.
I said Miami was not going to live up to the hype, and daggone it. The first 3 weeks, they look like by far the best team in the league.
So what Duke needs is to head down to Coral Gables and it thunderstorm, because apparently Duke's really good in the rain down in Coral Gables. So where am I at right now? I love our odds. You only need 2 games if you win this weekend. I think you can beat UNC, get the bell back for the first time in 6 years. I think you can beat Wake Forest. I think you can beat State, depending on how their situation is coming November 9th, I believe. I'll say it. I think you can beat Florida State, because who knows where that team is going to be October 18th. So 1 week at a time. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Yes, I do a bowl projection every week with Freddie Hodges at the Duke Report, but it looks good. I'll just say that.
So along that same line, at Blue Devil in HOU, he says the over under on the season was 5.5. How many games do we each now think that we actually win this year? So Brian just talked through that, but
I don't want to speak for you guys. I mean, that's just where my head's at. I think winnable games are UNC. I'll say Florida State. They're in shambles right now. Unless something magical happens these next few weeks, Duke has a shot. Wake Forest, NC State. That's four teams right there.
Yeah,
I'm going to stick with my 7-5. I still think, and I mean, we can do better than that, but I'd be cool with that.
I mean, I don't disagree. I mean, I think the schedule is a lot easier than what we thought it was when we were looking at it at the beginning of the season. So, I mean, what did I mean, hell, I think I picked 9-3. So
yeah, I went 8-4. You went 9-3. So Jamie, we're looking great right now.
Yeah. So I mean, I could see it. Like you said, Florida State is in shambles. Like, this is our chance. I mean, if we have a chance, this is it, because they're going to probably bounce back. And then Carolina, obviously, we all want, if we don't win another game, we want Carolina. That's
SMU as well. Sorry, I forgot about them.
SMU's a Virginia Tech's winnable.
Yeah,
so they all don't
look. Yeah. I mean, they have a chance to win every game. And who would have?
Yeah, I mean, I think. Go ahead, Scott. Sorry.
No, so who would have thunk right now that the coach with the most opportunity of not getting fired is Mario Cristobal in the state of Florida?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think the Miami game is the most difficult, for sure, left. As far as judging by the first 3 weeks. And I think if there's one thing we know about football, it's that you can't judge things before conference play, really. And it's really going to take a couple more weeks before we really know. But to answer that question, I do like the over even more now that we're 3-0 than I did at the beginning of the season.
So let me ask you this. Is that Georgia Tech win over Florida State and Dublin tarnished now? Is Georgia Tech that good of a team? Or is it Florida State's just that bad of a team and people didn't want to recognize it?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean,
Yeah.
to be honest,
I'm not trying to take anything away from Georgia Tech. I mean, that was a monumental win over a team everyone thought was going to be in the playoffs. But as we've seen these last couple of weeks, Florida State loses to Boston College. They lose to Memphis. That guy who said he was going to eat dog poo out of a red Solo cup, he has gone into witness protection. I mean, it's just not looking good at all for Florida State right now. And I don't. Who do they play this week? I don't even know. Oh, Cal.
Cal.
they got Cal. Yeah,
That could be 0-4.
yeah,
Yep.
they could be.
My goodness.
Cal is legitimately good, and it was West Durham, right? That
Yeah, shout out
that
West.
talked about that. Like he thought they were his sleeper pick. So
That's 2 years in a row where we've had someone from the ACC network give us their sleeper pick, and it turned out to be a good pick. Packer went with Louisville last year, and now you got West Durham going with Cal. So, I mean, please, it's been what 30 some years that Duke has played Florida State and has yet to win in that series. I mean,
Yeah.
something's got to give.
Speaking of the ACC network, guys, we can't praise Wes and Packer without taking a shot at our guy Eric McLean, the big dog. He came on and praised Clemson, and then we beat him. So, like, hey, shout out to Eric.
all right, next up, Nathaniel Miller. He just wanted to point out that it is a shame on how many Duke fans were leaving the game at the end of the third quarter, and maybe Brian and Josh can speak to this. Brian was on the field. They didn't really show the stands too much on TV. I'm not talking about parents leaving with children. He said people were complaining and giving up on this Duke team. He's glad they pulled out the W, 3-0, hell of a win.
I didn't notice it myself per se, but there are some folks who I guess still have PTSD from the dark ages, as we call it, to where they're down, heading into the fourth, there's no shot. Let's just go home, beat the traffic. This team has shown already that they're going to fight till the very end. This coaching staff will not let them give up. There could be a scenario in 2 weeks to where Duke could be down to UNC, which, God, I hope that doesn't happen. But it could happen again to where they come back and win a game. You cannot give up on this team. You just cannot. This team has already exceeded media expectations at 3-0, hopefully soon to be 4-0. So all I'm going to say is it's probably the same folks who were complaining that seating got taken away because of the Devil's deck. So until you stay for the entire game, I don't want to hear anyone complaining about attendance and seating and everything like that. Josh, I mean, you about the same thing from what you saw?
Yeah, I was actually just trying to locate what the reported attendance was for the game. You got it, Scott. But I did not specifically notice the people leaving, but it does not surprise me. And I think, Brian, you're right. Like, each year there was PTSD from old school Duke, and I think Duke fans are coming out of it. But since Mike Elko showed up in Durham, it's not been that way. And so if Duke fans are leaving because Duke is down, because they think Duke's not going to punch back in the fourth quarter, you don't understand how these teams are built. The David Feely effect is in 100% gear in fourth quarter, right? It's ready to roll. These guys are as healthy in the fourth quarter as they are in the first quarter for the most part. And so, yeah, I would just say to the fans, like, Duke is not out of a game unless it's like mathematically impossible that they can come back and win. So, dude, and it seems like, and I know we're going to get to this, but it seems like we sleepwalk a little bit in the third quarter, and then something wakes the offense back up when it's needed.
But to hit Josh's point, 20,174, and something that was mentioned today in the presser: resiliency. That's Manny talked about that constantly. He said that word at least 4 times during his press conference. This team is resilient. The backs were against the wall. They fought back out.
Let me say one thing. We are recording on September 16th. This Duke UNC game is in 12 days, folks. 12 days. I've already seen UNC fans talking about how they got AP votes. This team's going to go places, this, that, and the other. If you don't have your tickets yet, yes, Scott, trust me, 3 or 4 AP votes for the top 25 is what they got. Folks, if you do not get a ticket, if you do not get your friends who are Duke fans to get tickets, Wallace Wade Stadium is going to be light blue the majority of the stands. Let's not let that happen. 2 years ago, everyone did a great job. And for the most part, I would say, what was it, 60-40 Duke fans? Let's make that happen again, because if not, it's going to feel like a home game for Chapel Hill College. So you've got 12 days to make your plans, make them, show up, stay the whole game, 4 o'clock kickoff, no excuses. The wife and kids, barring any illness, unlike this past weekend, should be there as well. So come out, have a good time. Got a lot going on, but you got to come out and support your team.
Hey, for any Carolina fans listening, you need to worry about the DUKESs this week, the Dukes of James Madison. Then you can worry about the Duke of Durham.
All right. I thought this next one would be a good discussion point, because we've talked about it kind of all year, and I think people are going to continue to talk about it because it's going to continue to happen. John Horton on Facebook. Eventually, Malik has to pull the ball on a handoff and run. Defenses pay him no mind since he rarely runs. And there was one that was, it was egregious. And nothing against handing the ball off to, I can't remember if it was Starr or Peyton, because obviously both of them had really good games Saturday evening. But if Malik would have pulled, he would have cruised into the end zone untouched. And here's another thing. I saw, we may have had this in a question, I can't remember, but I'm not sure if the coaching staff is telling him not to run, or if it's just the fact that Malik doesn't want to run. I think we've kind of realized he's not a dual threat. He's not going to be Riley Leonard. So what do you guys think?
I think we need to rename it the PO instead of the RPO. We're going to do this pass option here. I'm not going to be critical. I don't want to be critical. There will come a point in time, there will come a game this year where pressure on the quarterback dictates that you have to run and get out of the pocket. It hasn't happened yet. Shout out to the offensive line, who's been very good on pass protection for the first 3 games of the season. But there will come a time. We are about to hit a new level of competition when UNC comes to town in 2 weeks. And I'm not saying that Malik needs to change his style of play. I'm not saying he needs to change who he is as a quarterback, but it's going to dictate it. Every single quarterback has to get out and run. Peyton Manning hated running, and he had to get out and run sometimes. Tom Brady, same thing. And some current quarterbacks. So anyway, I wish I knew the answer to that question. I understand the frustration, and yeah.
To Jamie's point, it was that one play that was obvious. You had 5 in the box. They ran the RPO. All 5 guys went towards Starr or Peyton. No one even sniffed at Malik because they knew what was coming. And I'm not trying to put down Malik at all, but at some point, if you're the coaching staff, if there's not enough confidence that Malik has to hold on to the ball and run it, call something else. Because to Josh's point, the competition is only going to get harder after this weekend. Georgia Tech with Tyler Santucci, great defense. UNC, I don't really know. I haven't really watched most of them, or most of their games, if any of it. So jury's out on that one. Florida State should have a good defense, but for all purposes, we've seen that they've fallen apart. NC State's known for their defenses. Just to kind of give you an idea, ACC play is completely different than non-con play. But that one play, had he held on, he would have he could have walked into the end zone because everyone was focused on the running part of the RPO.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with both everything they've said so far. I mean, it would be nice to see it, but let's be honest. Over the last few years, there's been thousands of times that we've said they should have ran and kept the football, and Riley didn't, and Daniel Jones didn't, and Quentin Harris didn't. So I mean, it is what it is. Hopefully, you're gonna have to game plan for it eventually. That's the bottom line. When you get to ACC play, you have to game plan for it. If you don't, then those opportunities for W's are not going to be W's. They're going to be L's.
And I'll just say this too: like sometimes the fan base can be very illogical. So like, hear me out here. What Duke fans want is a quarterback that willingly and willfully runs. So he's very athletic and he's fast, right? They also want a quarterback that can throw the deep ball on a dime because we're tired of dinking and dunking, right? And you want a quarterback that makes great decisions and doesn't throw interceptions. So basically what you're saying is you want to create this quarterback like in like another world, and he's going to be the best quarterback in the country. That's really what Duke fans want. So Duke fans need to kind of like take those expectations and just bring them back to reality a little bit.
Wait. I know this quarterback. They want Cam Newton.
Oh my gosh.
Stop it.
Hey, I'll take college Cam Newton.
Yeah, exactly. I'm telling you.
So they want the legs of Riley Leonard.
Right.
With the arm
of Malik Murphy.
Okay.
The deep ball, but then the intellect of like a Sam Hartman. Right? It's like they want those three people in one. And if that's the case, that dude is not in Durham. I hate to say that. That dude is in the NFL, right? Or that dude is like going top 5 of the NFL draft.
Arch Manning in Texas.
Arch Manning. Or he's Arch Manning. And I mean, honestly, like, so anyway, I just think that like we need to be realistic. And like, listen, Duke fans are not the only ones complaining about like, I wish our quarterback did this or that. I mean, Carolina fans are complaining. State fans are complaining. Like everybody's complaining. I think Florida State fans might be complaining just a little bit. So like, I think Duke fans just need to like temper the expectation a little bit and root for these guys and realize I can promise you this. This is why I've been around Malik Murphy enough in my role to know this. I can promise you this. He is not going out there on that football field and trying to not win football games. Okay. So like, he is absolutely a freak of nature, can throw a football over the mountains over there. And so I think we just got to be patient, let him and Brewer figure it out.
And at the end of the day, Malik ends up making clutch throws. He did it again Saturday. Like, yeah, we had a lull. I'm not sure if it was play calling, a mixture of what the defense kind of fell off a little bit there. That was the first time we kind of seen the defense, fall off a little bit third quarter. But when it comes down to game winning time, Malik makes the throws. I mean, we've seen that. So all right. So moving on to the offense. I've got several questions here to read about the offense, and then we'll kind of discuss. At Kelly Rowe 910, do we think Manny and Brewer are being too conservative at times on the play calling? And if so, what do you guys think the reasoning is? At MFK Duke 1, what causes the peaks and valleys in Duke's offense? Or if we had that answer, we'd be rolling the college football world.
Maybe in the tower.
At the Duke of QP, I'm glad we're 3-0, and honestly, it feels like they could be 1-2 instead. Offense has shown sparks, but no sustained fire for the entire game. I rarely feel like we get into a rhythm, and I think the lack of intermediate passing game is a big missing factor. Why is every pass a bomb or a short wide receiver screen? At TS Lester, we all know I'm one of the biggest Malik backers, but he's got to rein in his arm on the intermediate throws. There's Tyler coming in with the intermediate comment, just like the Duke. The deep ball is there and beautiful. Do we think he's almost too strong? And then another question, he says, it feels like our offense just lacks identity right now, too flat at times, stalling. And he said, what would you say our identity is on offense if you had to describe it? And he said, frustrating is not allowed. So, and Brian Scott Owens, is the honeymoon period over? Should we be worried that the timing between Malik and the receiving core, at least in his opinion, looks mediocre at best? That was a lot to unpack, but
Yeah.
Could you repeat those questions?
Yeah, one more time. No. And the Duke, I'm very upset with you. No deck question this week. What the heck, man?
Is
You're
it like
losing
an
your
intermediate
touch.
deck?
Yeah, exactly. You know, he wants long decks or short decks. Anyway, so the words I'm going to use are still loading. You got to understand, folks, new coaching staff, new playbook, both for the offense and defense. We're only 3 games in. And all of these videos that we saw during spring ball and fall ball were during practice, where the offense knew what the defense was going to do, where the defense knew what the offense was going to do. Don't get me wrong. Those throws that Malik threw to Jomo and Eli and Samir and whoever else were great, but he knew what the defense was going to do. He knew where exactly his wide receivers were going to go. Now you've got them in game time situations going up against defenses where he's trying to figure out where to go. He's being rushed sometimes. There have been times. I mean, he got sacked the other night, which was, correct me if I'm wrong, guys. It was just a misinterpretation by the running back. But these things
Are
are
you talking about
going
the
to,
sack that Malik
yeah,
took?
yeah.
Oh no, the running back. I won't say his name. He
No,
got blown up.
yeah, I'm not trying to blame, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like, these are the situations that they're going to have to face. And I mean, I hate to say this, but how do you think these questions would be worded if Duke was 1-2 or 0-3 right now? Like, we might have to suspend the mailbag. I would just say give it a little bit more time. I've got some stats about Middle Tennessee State heading into this weekend that hopefully this is the game that will fine tune the offense heading into ACC play.
so one problem I've had, and we've mentioned it on our group text before, it seems like Malik and Eli have a really nice connection. And when we're talking about intermediate throws, seems like Eli would be the perfect guy to have out there. But then we go stretches where Eli's on the sideline, and it's kind of odd to me. Well, I know you want Malik to use that big arm, but Eli's like that perfect, I mean, he can get down the field too. Don't get me wrong; he's shown that as well. But he's that perfect guy that seems like he could hit the intermediate routes, and it feels like they have a nice connection.
Yeah, Jamie, I think that's a good point to bring up. In the Northwestern game, the guy that I was sitting with counted 6 straight possessions in the second half that Eli was not on the field, and he was over on the sideline with his helmet on, standing right beside the coaching staff. There was a long period again this past Saturday, the UConn game. I don't believe it was 6 straight possessions, but it was a few. And here's the deal: I don't know. And so once again, number one, I do think Eli Pancol needs to be on the field as much as possible. I also understand that we had a huge game. We haven't even talked about him yet, but we had a huge game from Sean Brown. We understand John Davis Robertson deserves some time out there, and more, right? So Javon Harvey, like, there are other guys, but I would like to know Trooper Taylor, when he was the running backs coach here at Duke, there was a specific rotation that the running backs went through. After you played a certain number of snaps, you knew you were coming out, or if there were certain benchmarks where the guys knew. He even told us one time, if you guys remember this interview, that it was so-and-so was in the backfield, and let's say it was Jordan Waters was in the backfield, but he knew that it was time to rotate out, and it ended up being like 1st and goal from the 1, and Waters had carried him all the way down the field, and he subbed out for Jacquez came in, because that's just the way the rotation worked. I don't know, and I don't believe the wide receivers have something like that, but it does make me scratch my head a little bit, Jamie, on the inconsistency of the passing game. Why our number 1 touchdown getter so far this season, 5th-year senior, is not out there anymore. That's a great question. My other thought on this is, we spoke at the beginning of the year, and the numbers backed it up at SMU, is the use of the tight ends. And I know we're missing Jeremiah, but not just on those little out routes, but like finding Nikki down the seam, finding Nikki in that mid range area would be nice. And so those are the things I'd like to see us improve on. Once again, I don't have any insider information. I don't know, what the thought process there is there, but I'd like to see that.
Well, I know that it was mentioned, Coach Brewer mentioned today, talking about Queso Brown, that we're finally getting to see what they see every day in practice. And the way they have it set up in practice is whoever, and it just happened to be Queso this past week in the game, that position is getting there open against the plays they're trying to run against these defenses. So, Josh just mentioned the fact Nikki at the seam. That worked out once or twice against Northwestern. It didn't work out against UConn, but Nikki also had to stay in as the fifth blocker. Him and Jake Taylor had to stay in as the fifth blocker or sixth blocker to just help because they were blitzing. And, and that was one of the things they mentioned today in the press conference. They threw the kitchen sink at them. The defenses were – Jim Moore's a defensive coach. I mentioned that last week. I mentioned he was a really good coach, a defensive coach, and that we would see some different things. In all honesty, consistency would be nice. I think that's the biggest issue that I have as a fan watching is some consistency. I was personally, and I'm sure everybody agrees with this, really glad to see the running backs have success. One of the things that sucks about that is they got hurt, which is why they had to go down, and nothing against Boyd, but they had to go bring him in early because there was a nick here and a nick there. So, I think it's still kind of like Brian said, we're still learning. We're still getting there. I mean, this is only the third game. Now, granted, you're going to see different things, and it's going to be different the whole year. But my man has a cannon, and hopefully, the further we go in the season, we'll start getting other people other than Jomo every time. But my man is there. And Jomo is just making every catch thrown in his way just about, except for when he fell and hurt his shoulder the other night. So just give it time. Give it a chance. I'm trying to buy some time for Jamie to quit laughing, which is not working. So forgive me. But the group chat won.
Group chat
Jamie
won.
0.
Jamie 0.
Which is always great. So
Jamie, you good for the next question?
Oh, good Lord. Okay. I thought this one was good. Lane Phipps on Facebook. He says he just wanted to throw out that the energy really started pumping through the crowd after every time we touch Blade. And, seems like I heard something about this happened at Northwestern too, because Northwestern played every time we touch, and I think even Josh got caught on camera dancing. But he goes on to say, what are some other songs you guys think Duke should play to get the crowd pumped or engaged? Maybe the other team's fight song. That's a shout out, Brian. Yes, we definitely.
I mean,
love to.
We got to give a shout out to Noah. Is it Noah that is big on the Mo Bamba third down?
I think it's Eli.
Eli's
the one that always tweeting.
Eli Hart. So who he not only I have to give Eli credit. He not only makes a big deal about it on social media, he's like followed up with like official emails and stuff. So I mean, shout out to him. Like he's trying to get that done.
I mean,
but,
he tags Duke in it too. Like he comes right after him.
The social media team is gonna make sure that's taken care of. But no, Mo Bamba on third down is good. I mean, I think that, and then like, I don't know, man. Maybe it's not just the music, but like anything that gets the crowd to participate, right? If it's a song that they know, I don't know. I'm obviously not up on like current trends of songs, but I do know that like, what is that, like swag surf song? Like the student, I don't even know. Yeah, obviously it might not be what it is, but I know that I've seen student sections go crazy on that. Anyway, and then I don't know. Soulja Boy, J.A. I know that a lot of people do that. Brian, Scott,
I mean,
would you like to show your age and your lack of culture like I have just done for the last?
It's got to be Hell's Bells. Like that. I really believe that needs to be the song that they run out to.
Personally, I feel like you could play anything 80s. I mean, when they go to the back to the songs,
Here we go.
but they get the crowd into it. I mean, when they play whatever the song is for the karaoke song, it's always great when it's an 80s song. Ask the hard hats, man.
Tell us you're a white dude in your 40s without saying you're a white dude in your 40s.
I mean, I'm almost 50, so that makes it even worse. But that's neither here nor there.
From Boston.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, whatever works. I mean, because you're right. When they certain songs hit, everybody starts getting into it, and playing some crappy mess, especially the opposing theme song. Anyway, it's just I heard, now. Granted, I don't know, so I'm going to go off the two that were there. I heard them say that the GJ was not as good this time as it was the first time. This one was not as good as the first one.
I heard some complaints on that as well.
Brian, would you like to speak into this?
I don't really care. I mean, I don't know the DJs. Like, I looked them up this year, and I'm like, I don't know. I personally thought the music selection was good this week, but again, showing my age, I guess.
Okay, now granted, Jamie and I were not in the position we were in last week. Was it as deafening when they had the in-game stuff? So at least they listened to that part.
No,
Yeah,
they
it
actually
got turned down
realized
a little
there's
bit.
a volume button that they can go like this or like this to.
Bro,
adjust the
they heard
volume.
her up here in Creedmoor during that first game. I promise you.
It was crazy loud. Like, I mean, even Rachel was super loud, like when she was on the mic and everything, just talking.
Let me tell you who was not super loud on that video screen this Saturday. That is Hard Hat guys. We had the featured tailgate, and they go to do the spot, and there's no audio. So there's Matt up there just talking away, like pointing to do all this stuff, and you couldn't hear anything. So
I
man.
texted with Matt in our group text. I said, I think they heard your voice, and they're like, you know what? On second thought, nah, we're good. Cut the audio. We'll just show the video.
All right. And this is a weird stat that I've seen people discussing on social media. And at Sit NUOK, Will had a question about that. He's like, can Duke score more than 26 points in a game? And then we had a similar one from at BS Holloway. What happens if Duke scores 27 in a game? So, I mean, it is kind of an odd stat that we've scored 26 points in all 3 games.
All right, so Brewer, the question I got asked today, Brewer's like, I don't care what the score is. He said, if we win 2-0, it's a win for Duke, and we're 3-0. He said, but yeah, if we scored more than 20, he said, in fact, his wife mentioned it today. He said, do you think you guys could score maybe 27 or a few more points next time?
Shout out Daniel Brewer, fan of the pod.
I think we know the score predictions for this week heading into Saturday. Yeah, a lot of 26s are going to be put on the predictions.
Well, the previous coach here at Duke, forgot his name, but he used to say this, Mike Elko. He used to say people would ask him about like giving up yardage, and I remember a couple of times him saying, "I didn't know that the game was decided by who gives up the most yards. Like we're trying to stop them from scoring, right, on defense." And I think that's the same, similar to that. Kind of what Jonathan Brewer's saying. It's like, hey, look, you don't get extra wins. You know what I mean? Like you win or you lose. And like if we win 3-1, I don't think you can do that. But 3-2, or you win 32-2, a win is a win, a loss is a loss. So
all right. Jamie Latham on Facebook. So I has an observation first and then a question. My opinion, running game looks like it's getting better. Still a little dancing with the running backs, but not as bad. I think this was a hard-fought win for our Blue Devils, which I'm satisfied with. UConn has some talented players on both sides of the ball. With that being said, we really need to work on our run defense. That stretch play was killing us. Definitely need to improve on that. And then he moves on. This will lead us into some Middle Tennessee State discussion. I think Brian has some stats for us. Who are some key players for MTSU that we need to be aware of?
Me, Scott.
Scott,
go ahead.
I was going to jump in about the other part of that. I mean, it's just how it works, man. No. Honestly, Duke's running backs the last 4 years have played Saturday Night Fever in the backfield when the ball gets handed off to them most of the time. It's really aggravating. I mean, and it's nothing against them, but they are sitting there tiptoeing their feet instead of going through. Now, there was a couple times at first in the game where it happened. And then as the game went on and progressed a little bit, man, they got the ball and they were gone. They weren't dancing anymore. They were running right through the hole. And that's, that was one of the biggest complaints we had about the guy that doesn't go to school here anymore. He's over across in Raleigh. Every time he got to
he
the
was
line,
not in Raleigh Saturday night.
No, you're right. He was at the Duke game.
He was in Wallace Wade. Shout out Jordan Waters. Got to see him. By the way, super nice dude. One of the nicest guys you'll ever talk to. So, like, all y'all need to chill on that dude. Anyway, Brian, you have I agree, Scott. I agree with you 100%. Brian has some Middle Tennessee State kind of look aheads that I think are going to be encouraging in this conversation.
I did realize there was an amazing performance by a Middle Tennessee player last weekend against Western Kentucky. Wide receiver Omari Kelly, 9 receptions, 239 receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns. All I will say is this. Middle Tennessee State has the 22nd best passing offense in the country. They're averaging about 305 yards a game. On the rushing side, however, and take note of this, folks, they are averaging 68 rushing yards a game. Not 168, not 268, 68. That is 127th in the country. There's 133 FBS schools currently playing this year. Here's the big part, and this is what I told the guys before we came on and recorded. Their defense is 131st out of 133 FBS schools so far after 3 games. They have given up an average of 542 yards a game, 158 rushing yards a game, which is 93rd best, 384 passing yards a game, dead last in the FBS division. So
booty cheeks.
That doesn't seem good.
No. And against Western Kentucky, their defense gave up 481 passing yards and 6 touchdowns and 150 rushing yards and 1 touchdown, 7 touchdowns total. So Duke fans, while it's safe to say that Duke is probably favored, and we'll talk about this in the predictions later, let's see how the first couple series go before we, start talking about going 4-0. Because everyone thought that Duke would win by double digits against UConn, and we saw what happened.
Agree with everything Brian said there. We can't overlook anybody. Like, this is still Duke football. Like, I still have, PTSD from like the year 2000 or whatever. And basically anytime after Spurrier left through when Cutcliffe came, and even a couple of years into Cutcliffe's tenure, we were losing games to like Richmond and stuff. So we cannot overlook anybody. This is that classic like trap game because it's right before the big one with Carolina, and we all want that victory bell so bad, but we gotta get this win in Murfreesboro.
I don't
Saturday first.
Yeah, I don't mean to interrupt. I think it's going to be one of those games that it's either Duke's going to blow them out to begin with, like after the first quarter, Duke fans are going to know this is going to be another win, or God forbid it's going to be head into the fourth quarter and it's a close game. There's no in between. So let's hope for the first scenario.
And also I don't know about you guys too, but from what I've seen, it appears like there's going to be a fairly heavy Duke presence up there on Saturday. We will definitely be there.
We're running 7 deep up in there.
Except for me.
Womp womp.
Yeah. Womp womp. Should I tell them what I said? Should I tell Scott what I put on the new group text?
Listen, man, if I'm giving him the double bird while he's getting stretchered to a medical room, yeah, you can tell him.
Yeah. So we had to start a new group text, Scott, with the people that are actually going to Nashville to make sure we knew what we were doing. And so I was like, hey, this is the new group text. And I said, RIP Scott and Janet. And so then that kind of got going back and forth. Tyler gave you some well wishes and rest in power. All rest in peace and all that stuff. So.
Listen, I'm having the hardest time in the world. I'm going to go ahead and do a little confession here. So we got the pastor. I'm going to confess in front of the pastor. I am about to lose my mind knowing that I can't go, and it is driving me insane. But I am doing the right thing at the end of the day, taking care of my wife like I'm supposed to, because that's what a good husband does. And I'm telling myself all this to make myself feel better. So shut up. Don't say anything to me. But no, seriously, my wife just had, for those who don't know, my wife just had knee replacement surgery. Somebody was supposed to take care of her. Something came up in their world. I was going to go on the trip, and I made the mistake of bragging about that 3 weeks ago, and now I'm not going on the trip. So that's what happens when you run your stupid mouth.
Well, if she had knee replacement surgery and you went on this trip and left her without help, she would have husband replacement surgery, after that. So
listen, here's the crazy part. She's not replaced me yet in 16 and a half years. So something is definitely wrong with this lady. I'm just saying.
All right. I thought this was a pretty good question to discuss as well. John Applebaum on Facebook. Regarding the upcoming game against MTSU, another non-power Power 4 team, why don't we schedule games versus like an SEC team like Vanderbilt? I would be willing to travel to Nashville to see Duke play Vanderbilt, but not Middle Tennessee State. 2 of our 4 non-conference games each season should be against Power 4 conference teams like the Big 10, SEC, Big 12. What y'all thinking about that? This is Brian's alley right here.
We'll see Jamie here in a second. Y'all are about to see quick change, Jamie. But he forgot to mute too. Oh my gosh, shut up. I've got to mute it, guy. All right, here we go. There's no telling. There's no telling what's about to happen.
Oh my Lord, that would this episode would go TVMA quickly.
No, here's what I'd say about that. I get that for strength of schedule, but honestly, strength of schedule does not matter. What matters is getting to 6 wins. To be honest with you, number 2, we did play, Northwestern, a Big Ten school. Number 3, ask Virginia Tech about scheduling Vandy. They scheduled Vandy and went to Nashville and got that booty smacked. And so, you do run the risk there. Now, I do understand that in years past, we played teams like Baylor or Kansas along with the Northwestern game. So I do understand that we have played those Power 4, 2 of those Power 4 types teams in the past. I just think you got to be very selective when you do that, because at the end of the day, you don't want to put yourself behind the 8 ball to not make a bowl game for multiple reasons.
Well, also true. I'll say this real fast, Brian. Also true that they have this stuff years in advance. It's not like this is something that just happened 6 months ago. We've had this thing set up because we've been talking about this Nashville trip for 4 years at least. So yeah, I mean, it's, I would like to, we're playing Illinois next year. We're trying to mix it up a little bit. It would be cool to see Vanderbilt. I'd be all for us playing Vanderbilt every season, even with what happened to Virginia Tech a couple weeks ago, because I think it would be a good opportunity for the 2 smart schools to play each other all the time.
All right, I'm going to play devil's advocate with you, Duke fans. Comment on the YouTube page or tweet us. Would you rather play an SEC Big Ten school as 2 of the 4, but go 4-8? Or would you rather play one Big Ten or SEC school along with 3 other non-Power 4 schools and go 6-6, knowing that you would go to a bowl game? That's my only question. Duke used to do this. And to Josh's point, Virginia Tech thought they had a win in the bag heading to Vanderbilt because Vanderbilt has been the laughing stock of the SEC. Basically, Vanderbilt is the Duke of the SEC from the 2000s. Let's just call it like it is. They had a moment with Derek Mason, current coach of Middle Tennessee, a couple of years, and they went back into mediocrity. I will say this, and to Scott's point, got Illinois next year, for the next 2 years actually, doing a home and home with them. Tulane, yes, they are in a non-Power 4 conference, but they are a legit team. And Duke plays them at Tulane next year, and then Tulane comes here in 2026. 2028, 2029. I know we're talking 4 years down the road. You're going to get your wish. Big 12 TCU is coming to Wallace Wade. And then Duke will go to Fort Worth in 2029 to return the favor. So it's not like it used to be. Let's just call it like it is. Like getting at least 6-6, getting a bowl game, getting that additional revenue, getting that additional recognition. If you're not playing in December or January, you're losing recruits, you're losing revenue, you're losing a whole lot of stuff. And if Duke playing only one Power 4 team out of the first 4 non-cons means that Duke gets a bowl game, I'll take it all day long. I don't care. I mean, rotate who we play in the Power 4, but give me that all day long.
Yeah. Give me 6-6 all day, every day. All right. And like you said, Tulane is absolutely legit. Like that's a tough schedule next year.
There's a chance that they make, depending on what they do this season, that they make the playoff. They're talking about that. Them and UNLV are two of the teams, the non-Power 5 or whatever, that have a chance with the schedule they have to make the playoff.
One thing I failed to mention that a team that Duke was going to play in 26 and 27, but removed it, Liberty, another team. I mean, I know we joke. I know, I say the Lord's team and they are a good program. Even if I wasn't an alumni, they are a stout program. They have top-notch facilities. They have endless amounts of money to get who they need to make the football program work. So these non-Power 4 teams, they're beating Power 4 teams every year. So yeah, I mean, I think Duke is scheduling right. I mean, I know it's years out, but still, there's some pretty good teams on the docket in the coming years.
Yeah, the Lord's School is going to take FSU's spot when they finally leave the conference.
Amen. I would be so happy if that happened. It never will, but yeah, that'd be awesome.
All right. Moving on. At Bentley Weeks, how do y'all feel about Starr not scoring on that last run? He said, I liked it, but curious to hear our thoughts. Obviously, I think Manny would tell you like that was the right move by Starr, but I would have liked to have seen him score. I mean, he was having an awesome week, right? He had the birth of his child, and then having his best game in a Duke uniform. It would have been nice to see him hit pay dirt there.
It would have also been nice to get over 26 points. That would put us at 33. But it was the right football play. We were able to finish the game out kneeling, and that was the right football play. But I'm sure there was somebody that had some sort of bet out there on something. I don't know. That didn't shift the spread, but did it? What about the over under? Did it mess with the over under? It did mess with the over under. I think we would have gone over.
47.5 was. Yeah. Oh my gosh! I just realized that.
So I'm sure there were people with some money on it, but it was the right football move. Listen, at least it's not in the NFL. I forget who did that. There's been a couple of running backs over the last couple of years that have done that in the NFL, and fantasy owners just absolutely flip their lids because they lose their week because of it. But at the end of the day, as we mentioned earlier, the purpose of playing football is to win the football game. It's not by how many you win, it's to win it. And doing what he did allowed Duke to win the football game with no questions asked. There was still a minute and 50 or so left to play. And so, had he scored, there is a chance, albeit a small chance, there is a chance that they score onside kick score. So this was a way to kind of stop that from happening.
I think it was a great decision. I mean, if you think about it, someone, they mentioned today that Starr is a veteran football player. He's played a lot of football over his career. In the back of his mind, he could have scored his first Blue Devil touchdown, but he did the team thing. There's no, he wasn't worried about him scoring. He was worried about the team getting the victory. And, some coaches would have had a fit about that and got mad. I'm sure Manny, when he came over to the sideline, told him appreciated the fact he'd done it, gave him kudos, things like that. So, I understand that. If it was me, I don't know if I could do that, but daggum, he did it and we won. So that's all that matters at the end of the day.
All right. Next question. at Blade for Duke. I thought this was a good question, and we all four might have the same player. I'm not sure. We'll see. Which player has been the most pleasant surprise through 3 games for us? And I mean, for me, it's Eli Pancol. I mean, straight up. I mean, I love seeing him come back from a season-ending injury to coming into this season having such a good year. Like we mentioned before, him and Malik seem to have a real connection. He leads the team in touchdowns currently. I mean, that's mine. I don't know about Scott.
Can,
Do you have?
can I hedge? Because I'm going to hedge. I mean, honestly, story-wise, my goodness, Eli Pankel is the man. And it's so exciting to see what he's doing. I'm going to hedge, though. I think Alex Howard and Ozzie Nichols on the defensive side have been 2 guys that, I mean, most Duke fans had no idea who these 2 guys were. Grad transfers came in, starting, doing a great job. I mean, and to be honest with you, I mean, now granted, I picked Alex Howard 2 weeks ago for my helmet sticker, but the guy has been unbelievable. I mean, we're talking ACC level this season so far. Ozzie Nichols, same thing. Both those guys have played well.
Also, shout out to Ozzie with Nick Morris Jr. being out with an injury. He's the Mike linebacker, so that's also an added thing. I would I think if you ask me to pick one offensive player, one defensive player, I'm going to go with that. Eli Pancol. Once again, I mean it just makes me so happy to watch that kid play football. Like, I know we interact with his parents, and especially his mom, and just like how happy they are for him. And so, knock on wood, stay healthy, Eli, the rest of the season. And then Alex Howard, kind of one of the players we did talk about preseason, as like he's kind of he is one of the transfers that is going to play major snaps, and that was an understatement, for sure.
Eli's on the preseason comeback player of the year award list. There is a comeback player of the year. So if he keeps performing the way he does, he could easily be a finalist for that award.
All right. Here we at Noah Lunsford 6. Our guy Noah comes in with a hard-hitting question. He wants to know, will he make it back from Nash Vegas? And I'm putting that at putting the chances at 98% that he gets stuck on the top of a hotel somewhere. Was that a movie or something? Like Hangover?
Hangover,
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a 98% chance that Noah, something happens.
There's a 98% chance that he wakes up and walks out in his hotel room and Michael Jackson's out there with a Bengal tiger.
Actually, I can see it right now.
I mean, no, it was Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson.
Michael Jackson. Back from the dead, bro. Those drugs were good, man, whatever they were.
Got a little Derek Carr there. Anyway. Yeah, I can see it right now on top of one of the bars on Broadway. Noah standing on the very top of it,
Do not throw a chair. You are not Morgan Wallen. No, I think the big question mark there, Jamie, and is he flying or driving? That's the question. So there's always room in Jamie's truck.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Regina Lee, she always comes through with a good question for us every week. She says, putting yourself into Coach Diaz, Brewer, and or Patke's shoes, considering your current personnel and how you want to play this season. Number one, she says, what aspects were you pleasantly surprised by in the UConn game? And number two, what is most in need of improvement in this week's quest for excellence? Thought that was another excellent question from Regina.
Yeah, I would say my pleasant surprise continues to be the pass protection that the offensive line gives. And then I think my question mark would be, as one of our questions asked earlier on, is that intermediate passing game, not the deep ball, not the line of scrimmage passes, but those 10 to 12 yarders. I think that's got to open up. Those would be my two answers.
Concur.
I would say on defense, pleasantly surprised with as well as we've been able to light up the opposing quarterbacks, things of that nature. I mean, going into the season, we did not think Duke would have as many sacks as they do so far. And I mean, I would say the only mistakes that we've made, quote unquote, on defense so far is the quarterback draw or the quarterback run to the outside, where we have not cut that off yet. Northwestern ran it for a touchdown that, I mean, the guy could have drove a Cadillac through there because nobody was on that side of the field. And then they ran it multiple times the other night. And luckily that I think it was Aaron Hall that got his shoelaces and knocked him out of bounds, or that dude would have been on a 70-yard touchdown run down that sideline.
Speaking of shouting out the defense, UConn game Saturday, they ran the trick play, the flea flicker trick play. Shout out Jalen Stinson. Jalen Stinson was the lone deep safety, and he read it and was able to get back and recover on the wide out that was crossing on the post. And that completely blew that play up. It was an incomplete pass. So shout out to Stinson on that for sure. Jamie,
Yeah,
how many more we got, man? We got it. We're going.
They ran 5 trick plays and none of them worked.
Yeah.
Jamie, we might miss our flight if we don't get through these questions.
So we got a group of questions here that I'm going to get through, and then I'm going to just do one more after that. This group of questions, I labeled them as Henry questions. We got questions about Henry Beelan. At Bleed In Duke Blue, Sam, our guy. After talks of Beelan being more involved moving forward with how he sparked the offense last week at versus Northwestern, when it was in a lull, why do we believe we didn't see anything from him tonight? At Seth Bishop, curious why Beelan didn't enter the game at all. Corey Cavallari, the second. He says the same thing. He'd like to see Beelan out there every once in a while, so they have to respect the QB run. Joshua Rollinson, why no Henry against UConn during their 21-0 run? And then our Hans Van Ben Schoten, same thing. He feels like Henry should be in a short yardage package, much like 2013 Brandon Connett. Also at Big Papa RV, short yardage play calling is atrocious. Why not get Murphy or Beelan under center to get half a yard? And Big Papa, I definitely agree with that. That was the long balls, the deep balls on third and short are killing me. Like, just get the first down.
Yeah, Coach
Let's
Brewer
get the
mentioned the fact that talking about the Henry package or whatever, that it did not work out the way that they were hoping it would. So that's why they never brought him in on Saturday. So, you know, I mean, I'm with y'all, and I think we all would agree that why in the world you're 7 yards behind the ball handing off to a guy on inches, 7 inches, 7 inches, whatever. It's not working out.
Scott, you're digging the hole deeper, man.
That'll do it for us this week. No.
the group text got all 4 of us. And then anyway, back to the question. I do not know why.
What did Scott say about 7 inches?
Oh man. Ooh, Mom, I'm sorry. Mom, I am so sorry if you're listening to this. Anyway, if you don't get it, ask Dad. But no, I do not know why there's not that we didn't do that. And as Coach Diaz, I think it was Diaz who said that today, it just didn't work out. Here's my thing. You know, when you're at like the 45 or around midfield, right? And it's like 3rd and 7. And like you kind of know you're gonna go for it on 4th down if you don't get the first down. To me, that is exactly when it's a perfect opportunity for Henry Beelan to come in the game, run a real RPO. He either hands it off or keeps it, and maybe you get 3 or 4 yards, but then you set up a nice 4th and 2 or 4th and 3 instead of, like, once again, like Jamie said, throwing some deep bomb on 3rd and 7. So, like, I don't know, man. I don't understand it, but once again, man, I trust these guys, and we're 3-0. Not the most beautiful 3-0, but I trust these guys. Jamie is still.
Lord. Okay. Anybody else got anything?
No, I was
Before I
just
move
going to
on?
ask, is it the last one? Because we might
Yeah.
not make it to our other segments.
Yeah, I got one more. That's it. One more. Dennis Miller on Facebook. I thought this was a good question because we even discussed this, I think, before in the group chat. Why are we signaling for a fair catch on punts inside the 10? Let it bounce, and odds are it will either get in the end zone or bounce even back towards the kicking team. And I think I think you're looking at just a young kid back there fielding punts, right? I mean, he had his best. Brown had his best game as a punt returner. Had a long of 23, and I even said this in my helmet sticker article. I mean, it's not if, but it's when he breaks a big one. He's going to take one to the house eventually with that kind of speed. I think I've even seen him like field a punt inside the 10 and then kind of slap his helmet like, like he's just trying. It's just being young, I believe.
I mean, yes, I agree. What I don't understand about this, and once again, I'm not a football coach, but like to me, you position your punt returner on the 10-yard line, and you say if you have to take one step back, you let it go. Right? So you're out at the 10-yard line, you're only catching the ball here or in front of you. If it's over your head, then it's over your head. And so I agree. I would also add to that, I would love to see the analytics behind the potential of fair catching every kickoff and not ever trying to return a kickoff, and starting at the 25 every time, because more often than not, when you try to return that kickoff, you're starting behind the 25-yard line. So anyway, you guys got anything on the special teams? I will say this: we did not get a question about this, but I will, unofficially here, I guess. But there were a couple of injuries that took place during the game Saturday night. We don't know the extent of those, but both Samir Hagens and Jordan Moore, they were upper body injuries. Don't know where that stands. Scott, can you speak to what Manny said? Did he say anything about injuries at the press conference?
He was asked about injuries. He said nothing has changed from last week to this week as far as the injury report as to guys that could possibly play that didn't play last week. He didn't mention any. He said there wasn't anything new that he knew of at the moment. So I don't
Well,
know if that's
that's a good
coach
thing.
speak or if that's just the fact that it just something that happened and the next day they were fine. But he
Yeah, I
did
mean,
mention
shout
they
out
both
Jordan
got banged
Moore.
up.
Sorry, I didn't. Yes, shout out Jordan Moore. Jordan got hurt and came out of the game for a little while, and watching him on the sidelines when he showed the training staff that he could lift his arms up over his shoulders, he was like, "I'm going back in." So he came right back in the game. But once again, just that's the resiliency of Jordan Moore for sure. But he and Samir both, experienced, injuries that took them out of the game for a certain amount of time on Saturday. So it's just something for Duke fans to keep their eyes on as we head to Murfreesboro. But speaking of heading to Murfreesboro, if we don't wrap this podcast session up, our flight leaves Thursday, so we're going to have to make sure we get rolling on that. But we do want to thank our sponsor, our Iron D sponsor, El Rodeo Mexican restaurant on North Duke Street. They are incredible partners. They have great food. I went there earlier this week. I got their fajitas. Always a solid choice. I'll give you another option there that you can try since that's part of what I do. They're sopes. If you like sopes, their steak sopes are incredible. Scott, you get number 4. All right, Scott gets the number 4. But anyway, go there. They have great drinks, great food. They have a private seating section for you and your family. This is the one on North Duke Street. North Duke Street, about 10, 12 minutes away from Duke's campus. If you go there, let them know that you listen to the Section 17 podcast. Without further ado, Scott, it's that time. We'll see if we can get it right this week. This week in Duke Blue Devil history. Scott Medlin, take it away.
All right, we're going to go back to September 22nd, 2012. Duke dominated Memphis 38-14, like Elvis Presley used to dominate a peanut butter and nana sandwich. Sean Renfrew was 26 of 37 with 314 yards and 4 touchdowns with an INT, and also had 3 rushes for 20 yards. Future Super Bowl champion Jawan Thompson had 12 rushing yards for the Denver Broncos back when they didn't stink. 12 rushes for 41 yards and 3 touchdowns, and had 3 receptions for 20 yards. Connor Vernon ended up with 8 receptions for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. On the defensive side, Duke was led with Brandon Braxton, had 8 tackles. Then there was a trio of Walt Canty, Ross Cockrell, a duo with 7 tackles apiece. Ross Martin that day was 5 of 5 from extra points and had 23-yard field goal, but Duke dominated the Memphis Tigers there in the Liberty Bowl, and that was this week in Duke football history.
Man, those were some names, man. I forgot about Brandon Braxton.
Wait, what was
but
the
yeah,
date
those
again?
are. Yeah,
September
we sure?
22nd.
I'm messing with you.
2012.
Listen, I had people come up saying you did Scott wrong, and I apologize to you, big dog. It threw me off. So my reaction
But we got it corrected. We got it figured out by the end of the episode.
We did. Yeah, we did.
For sure. Well, this week we head to Murfreesboro to face the Middle Tennessee State. What are they? The Raiders?
Blue Raiders.
Blue Raiders. And it's that time for Brian's Tale of the Tape, where he gives you all the information you need to know on our opponent and this matchup. Brian, take it away.
Thank you, Josh. Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders in Conference USA. Last year, Middle Tennessee went 4-8 and did not make a bowl game. Last week, Middle Tennessee was defeated at home by Western Kentucky 49-21, and they are currently 1-2. Head coach Derek Mason is in his first season with Middle Tennessee and has an overall coaching record of 28-57. Before becoming the Middle Tennessee head coach, Mason's last coaching position was at the defensive coordinator at Oklahoma State in 2022. He was also the head coach at Vanderbilt from 2014 to 2020 and has held various assistant coaching positions in college football since 1994. Now, overall, this is only the second meeting all time between Duke and Middle Tennessee, with Duke winning the only other matchup. That meeting took place on September 14th, 2019 in Murfreesboro, where Duke defeated Middle Tennessee 41-19. Why do we always go out there? They need to come here to Wallace Wade. Now, after this year's game, there are currently no other future games scheduled between the two schools, but as I stated last week, there are openings on future schedules, so you never know. We might see the Blue Raiders come to town. Middle Tennessee has played 11 ACC schools all time with a 5-14 overall record. The Blue Raiders do have winning records against 2 ACC schools. Fellas, I'm going to keep this rolling. Name those 2 ACC schools that the Blue Raiders have a winning record against. Who wants to go first? Anyone?
Wake Forest and Boston College.
Wrong and wrong. You're out. Scott?
Let's go with Middle Tennessee. Let's say SMU.
Nope.
And NC State.
You're out. Jamie, you got it last week. Kind of got some help. Let's go this week.
Good
What you got?
I got some help again. UNC?
One up north, one down south. That's all I'll say.
UNC maybe?
Nope. One more.
No, so, yeah,
Miami, they are 3-0 against the Hurricanes, with their latest win coming, I believe, in 2022, where they upset Miami. The other one, Syracuse, they've only played one time, and they beat them, so they're 1-0. Let's see here. Middle Tennessee is only one of 2 Conference USA members Duke has faced off against in program history, the other being Florida International, and the Devils are 3-0 overall against Conference USA. And now it's time for Did You Know? Middle Tennessee had humble beginnings opening on September 11th, 1911 as Middle Tennessee State Normal School, a 2-year program for training teachers. It was also in 1911 that the school fielded their first football team. From 1911 until 1934, the school did not have an official nickname for the athletics program. As training teachers was the school's main priority during those years, the school would have unofficial nicknames like Teachers, Normalities, which was the name for the first professionally prepared teachers in the U.S., and pedagogues, another name for strict teachers. I believe we've all encountered a pedagogue in our lives. Finally, in 1934, the local newspaper, the Daily News Journal, had a contest to find the new nickname for the school, with the winning entry winning, get this, $5. After looking over 200 entries, the name Blue Raiders won the contest. The idea came from Charles Stumpy Sarver, who was a guard on the school's football team at the time. Sarver's inspiration for the name came from Colgate's Red Raiders. At the time, Colgate's football program was one of the most successful programs in the nation. Said Sarver, I did not have any connections with Colgate, but the Red Raiders of the East were pretty outstanding back then. Now, whether I thought the name would make us a winner or not, I just didn't know. Starver kept his entry a secret from his teammates, and they only realized he had helped with the school's new nickname when he was presented his $5 award. And that was the tale of the tape for the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders. Josh?
All right, and we look forward to being there. If you're heading to Murfreesboro, let us know. We're going to be there. Hard Hat guys will be there. We'll be hanging out, and so make sure you come say hello. We would love to see you, meet you if we never met you. We do want to thank you for watching on YouTube. If you watch, comment. YouTube is great. Subscribe, share. Also on social media, Twitter, X, TikTok, Instagram at Duke FB Talk, Facebook, searching Duke Football Talk for our group there. Our website, dukefootballtalk.com. And then if you're listening, Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, leave us a 5-star rating and review. That reminds me, someone told me they left us a 5-star review. And so I am pulling it up as we speak to see if the new 5-star review has shown up. And it has. Oh, we got 2 new ones. Here we go. Oh, man, we got 3 new ones. Y'all want me to read them all? This one's from Kelly Rowe. Shout out to Kelly Rowe, Jamie, Josh, Scott, and Brian, the 4 horsemen of Duke football. Love listening to these guys on a weekly basis. Very knowledgeable and insightful when it comes to Duke football. Absolutely love the best pod when it comes to Blue Devil football. Keep up the great work. Shout out Kelly. He is a fellow beach bum, Wilmington beach bum. Jamie's Holden Beach bum. Fish Fry 02. That's our guy JD. Got to hang out with JD. Brian and I saw him and hung out with him at the tailgate this week. I've been a Duke basketball fan since I was 10 years old. And now I'm 49. We just gave away your age, JD, but you did it. I never even thought about Duke football until I was on Twitter one day, and somebody shared a post from the Section 17 podcast about Duke football going to the Military Bowl. I clicked on the tweet, read it, was intrigued, clicked the link to the podcast. It just so happened I had time to listen right then, and I was instantly hooked. They had me invested in the team and had me invested in them. I immediately bought a ticket to the Military Bowl, attended the Hard Hat Guys tailgate. Then last year, I became a Duke season ticket holder. And this year, I'm back again and owe it all to a few guys who love Duke football and share a disdain for a certain community college down the road. Thanks, guys. Keep up the hard work. That is awesome. I did not know all that from JD.
Dude.
Shout out to JD.
And JD is an awesome guy, by the way.
He's awesome, man.
Hooked me up
Huge
with tickets to a wrestling event a few months ago, and we stood there in line waiting to get in, and we were just chatting like we've been friends our whole lives. Just a great dude.
Well, I got a bigger question. Kelly said that we were the 4 horsemen. Which ones are we, though? Josh, you can sit down. You can sit out because you're not a big wrestling guy.
I'm Arn Anderson.
You are the
Was he
enforcer?
one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
That's
So
me.
you had Ric Flair. Are we talking the original? Because
I have no idea who they are. I just know
That's where
Arn
it's going to
Anderson.
get interesting on the 4th person.
Because you've got Ric Flair, Ole Anderson, Arn Anderson, and then it could have
Tully
been
Blanchard.
Yeah, totally. That's right.
Tully.
So who's
Hey,
the
but
tag team champions?
My favorite version of the 4 Horsemen had Barry Windham, though.
So he's Barry Windham
That's all I
then.
know.
He's Barry Windham then. There you go.
Okay. So Scott, me and you were well, no, someone's got to be Slick Rick. I guess I'll be whoa.
I mean, I'm fine with being Tully.
Yeah, that's fine.
The
Wow.
preacher.
I'm sorry,
Preacher
guys. You
man.
can remove your 5-star reviews and ratings from this podcast for what we just talked about.
No.
The last one, there was
These
a
are men
third
in
one.
tights.
Exactly.
Men in Men in tight
Mm.
tights.
The
Manly
Men in
Man.
Tights podcast. There's a third one, Will Addison. This past Thursday, love the pod, inside information, and a look into the football program that you can't get anywhere else. Best Duke podcast. Shout out to our 5-star ratings and reviews, and we appreciate them, and we want you to leave more. We'll read them. And so, once again, only if you feel like we're bringing value, if you give us that, what would be awesome. It's prediction time. We had some winners from last week. Then Brian will give us the numbers for this week. And then we'll tell you, we will tell you what is going to happen.
Yes,
Brian.
and don't take a word of what we say and go use it on bets, because we don't want to hear it. Okay, prediction winners from last week. On X, we had JD Tommy at Drive to 2015. Got Duke's score on the nose, so he wins. It was 26-10. On Facebook, we had Doug Caldwell. He predicted Duke to win 27-10. And then on Instagram, we had Blaine Pierce predict 26-0. Let me say this one more time, folks. I go off of winner first, and then closest to the winner score. And then if there's no winner, then I go closest overall score. So I don't want to see any tweets, but I predicted 28-20. That's great. Fantastic. Blaine got Duke's score right on the nose. So guys, congratulations. Scott has already reached out to you. You will be receiving your free Section 17 shirt. Now, as far as this weekend, 3 o'clock kickoff Central, 4 o'clock Eastern. The hour's throwing me off. On ESPNU, Duke is a 14-point favorite as of this recording. The over-under is 53.5 points. 53.5 points. So I'm just going to go ahead and start, just because I'm going to give you guys a lob as far as the combo goes. I think Duke continues its winning ways. I think I said last week UConn was going to be the game where they got everything in line. This has to be the game where Duke gets everything in line heading into ACC play. I've got Duke winning 34-21. I don't see that as a close score. It's more of Duke gets out ahead really early, and then Middle Tennessee scores some garbage touchdowns. As far as the jersey combo, I did look. Middle Tennessee likes to wear gray or silver helmets like OSU and all blue at their home games. They also have a black alternate, all black like Duke, but I don't see them doing that for a 3 o'clock kickoff. So I think we finally see the all whites, icy whites. No Gothic this week. It's just going to be that big blue, wonderful D. 34-21 icy whites with the big blue D. Who wants to go next?
That's my favorite uniform combo, Brian. I know. Sorry. I'm going to go with you there. I tell you what, though. I'm going to go with you, but I'm going to go Gothic on the helmets just to do something different. But I love the icy whites. And we've got to do it. We have to do it. So, anyway, we'll see. I'm going to be that guy. Duke wins 26-7. 26-7. We take the foot off the gas in the second half.
Does Manny
we don't score more than 26 points.
Does Manny just start taking knees? No,
yeah,
when we had
just to do it. And he locates where the camera crew is and just smiles right into the camera as Malik takes the knee.
Just a little finger point.
Exactly. 26-7 Duke.
So off the information that Brian gave on the Middle Tennessee state uniforms, because I don't do much paying attention to that, so I'll copy off his homework and go icy whites. Also just going to go Gothic script. I think we see Gothic script again. I like Duke big in this one. I think this is the game where where the offense puts everything together. I mean, we've seen Middle Tennessee State. We've seen that their defense is not good at all, and this should be a huge game for Malik. Should be a huge game for Star again. I like Duke. I like Duke to go big, 45-13. 45-13.
All right. So just to be different, of course, I think the icy whites is the way to go here. But again, want to be different. I go white top, white bottom. I'm going to go blue headgear with the big white D. Score, I mean, honestly, If I pick 50-0, it'll end up being like 7-12, something stupid like that. So I'm going to say 41-10. I think Duke can score 41 points. I think they'll end up possibly giving up a late touchdown at the very end like they did. No, well, they haven't given up anything in the fourth quarter yet. So maybe they'll get up in the third quarter like we have a couple times. So we'll go 41-10, icy whites, top to bottom, blue hat with the big white D.
There it is. As always, we will put our post up for who you think is going to win, what that score is going to be, as well as what you think the team is going to wear this upcoming Saturday. As always, we will pick our winners from X/Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And if you are the closest to the right score, you will win a free Section 17 t-shirt.
I want to let our listeners from down at the beach know we are keeping you guys in our prayers. While we were on this podcast, Billy Potter, who listens every week, lives down in the Carolina Beach area, sent me a video of outside of his house, and it's water everywhere. So they're getting hit crazy down there. So all you guys down there from the beach area, stay safe for sure.
Yeah, man, it's terrible down there. Roads are caving in, and it's bad. It's bad.
I mean, I saw Chris from Holden Beach posting photos, where it was like just water running all over the place.
And actually, Holden Beach got kind of lucky, I guess. Lucky, you could say. Like they only got about 10, maybe 11 inches of rain, whereas the Wilmington area, Carolina Beach, where Billy Potter is, we've heard upwards of like 20 inches of rain. That's a crazy amount of rain for a storm that wasn't not even a hurricane, not even technically. I don't know if it ever even made it up to a tropical storm. I think maybe it did, but who knows?
All right, Brian. I think we're out of here. We're closing up shop, man. We got to get out of here and get packed up and ready to go to the away game. So
yeah. Going to be a good time. If you are heading out to Nashville, Murfreesboro, please shoot us a message. Let us know so we can be on the lookout for you. As Josh stated earlier, we will be with the Hard Hat Guides this weekend close to the stadium, tailgating before the big game, 3 o'clock Central, 4 o'clock Eastern on ESPNU. But next week is the big one, folks. Rivalry week comes early in the 2024 season as Duke will look to get the victory bell back from Chapel Hill College. No ticket giveaway next week, but never fear, as Josh also stated earlier, there will be a home field giveaway of some type. I'm still thinking about what I want to do as far as how we're going to determine the winner. You must listen, you must watch. I will give the details on next week's episode. But that's next week. We are looking forward to Duke potentially going 4-0 this week after they take care of the Blue Raiders. But again, that will do it for this episode of the Section 17 podcast. For Josh Cox, for Jamie Holt, for Scott Medlin, and producer Tyler Witt, I'm Brian Kennedy. And this has been another episode of the Duke Football Talk Section 17 podcast.